Hello and welcome to this special webinar edition as part of celebrating World Green Building Week. My name is Lena, I'm the Education and Training Manager here at the New Zealand Green Building Council, and I just want to give you all a warm welcome, especially to those of you who have listened to the other webinars earlier this week. It's nearly the end of World Green Building Week and we've had some great events around the country. A panel discussion on Tuesday, green rooms all over Christchurch, Wellington and Auckland with some great presentations, and also the webinars on Monday and Wednesday, all about this year's theme, Better Homes NZ. If you've missed any of the webinar presentations, they will be available on our website soon, so you can look back at those case studies that you might have missed if you want to listen to them again. So I hope most of you are in now. Still a couple of strugglers who'll get through. So as you come in, you'll just join the presentation, and I'll just welcome you as you come in. But we've got 31 in the room today, which is pretty good for a Friday. So to round off World Green Building Week, we have invited Zane Raphael, who will tell us how he turned a leaky 1960s house into a cozy family home and achieved New Zealand's first standalone 10 Homestar rated house. Zane's on the line today. Zane, do you want to say hi?
Hi everybody, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and hopefully I can give some insights into how we've arrived at this amazing home that we have the privilege of living in.
Yes, thank you, Zane, for being here with us today. And of course, we couldn't do all of this great work without the support of our corporate sponsors. So a big thanks to Warren Mahoney, APL, Resine and Bailey's, as well as our World Green Building Week national sponsors, Bailey's and Kingspan, and also our webinar sponsor, Jib. So thank you very much for your support. Now, just a couple of house rules for those of you who are first sort of listeners to our webinars, which we've been running for, I think, almost a year now. We started back in November last year, I believe. So you can put your question into the question box during the presentation, as you will be muted during the presentation, so we're trying not to have too many voices in the room. So if any questions during the presentation you have for Zane, you can put them in the box, and we will do a Q&A at the end of the presentation. So just to get a little bit of an idea who's in the room today, I would just like to run a quick poll and see who of you is a Homestar professional. So that's either a Homestar assessor or a Homestar practitioner. It'll just be really interesting for us to see who's actually listening today, and what kind of level of knowledge you have. So it'll be great if you can just give me a quick vote, and then we can move on at this lunchtime. It will take about 25 minutes. So thanks everyone for taking the time during your lunch break. And it looks like 60% of you are not a professional, and about 40% are Homestar professionals. So that's really interesting to see. Okay, so I'll introduce you to Zane now. Zane, we're really pleased to have him on the line today. He's a very busy man these days. You might have heard him on radio early in the week, and he'll also be on the Super Home tour this Sunday. So that's really exciting. Zane is a licensed builder. He lives with his wife, Suzanne, a stay-home mum, parents to two girls, Imogen, aged 8, and Trinity, aged 5. Zane is a licensed builder with more than 20 years experience in new build homes and renovations. Zane has a can-do attitude and likes a challenge. He has built mud huts for the Maasai in Africa, initiated and helped organize a televised charity build for one deserving West Auckland family, and has also achieved fantastic results renovating all types of homes in the Auckland Central area. So hello, Zane, again, and we'll hand over to him now and to his presentation.
Thank you, Lena. Good afternoon, I should say, to everybody, and welcome. It is a pleasure to be able to talk to everybody about our journey with how we have achieved this 10 Homestar build. It's not been an easy feat, but we're really proud of what we've achieved. Let me just make sure I've got things working here. Lena, for some reason, I'm not able to flick on to the next slide. Sorry, people.
We'll do that.
There we go. Right. Whoops. Okay. So the beginning. So basically, what happened is, as a family, we were outgrowing our current home that we lived in, and we were looking for a home that was potentially going to be our forever home. And as you can see by what you're looking at, we basically were taking on quite a challenge if you look at the slide that we've got there. And so what we did is we looked around the market to find the perfect home for us in an area that we liked, and we quickly realized that it didn't exist and that it was beyond our price range. Like a lot of families out there, we had a young family, and Auckland prices just continued to skyrocket. And as you can see, we were introduced to this beauty, which I'll talk a little bit more about it. But what we found is when we actually moved into that home, it was the sickest that we'd actually seen our girls in the time that they were born. We'd moved out of a house that we renovated in 2003, which was warm and up to current building code, but it was still an older house, and renovating seems to be the way that we go with homes. And so we moved out of a nice comfortable home into the one that you saw in the previous slide. So we felt very quickly that we needed to do something in order to get the girls out of this cycle of being sick, which I know a lot of New Zealanders struggle with. So this house was built in 1967, and it was clad in cedar weatherboard. It had timber joinery, which was well beyond its use-by date and was actually starting to fail. We had on the roof, you can't see in these shots, but we had Super 6 asbestos on the roof, and it had no insulation in the walls to speak of, and the list of negativities just goes on. And someone actually said to us when they realized that we were renovating that, they said, oh, that house should be knocked down. And they asked, why that we were going to sort of carry on with it, and we looked beyond these minor issues, and I guess because I'm in the game, and we said, well, hey, why not? It's got a great piece of land. The house actually was quite well designed for its time, and yeah, we just saw huge potential in it. We were known on the street that we live in as the asbestos house because of the roofing that we had on it. So we were obviously really keen to get rid of that. Look, I always say that a project goes really smoothly based on the partnership of the builder and the architect. And I've got a great relationship with Buildology Architectural, and I've worked with them both in my business as well as our own home renovation. We've worked extensively with Alan McIntosh, the owner, and Romay Schmidt, who's the director there of the company. And they're an energetic team with great creativity and passion for the industry. And I've worked with a lot of designers over the years, and their plans are really good to work with. Builders need good plans in order to be able to build well. So we purchased this house with the intention to renovate it. And at the time, I'd never actually heard of Homestar before. So when Alan approached me to discuss my house, he asked me the question, have I thought about doing a Homestar build? To which I answered the question, no, because I honestly didn't know what Homestar was. I hadn't heard of it. And then he asked me if I wanted to do this for our house, to which I answered yes, and not really knowing what I was getting myself into. And look, again, I trusted Alan. I knew that what he was into and his vision for building in New Zealand, it was a great one. So this here, what you're looking at now, is the proposed floor plan with what Alan and the team came up with, which effectively increased the house in space quite significantly. It had a carport attached to the house, and now it has a complete standalone garage. Where the top bedrooms are, the bedroom 2 and 3, that was where the original carport was. And on the end where the living room, that is a new structure as well. So pretty well sandwiched between the garage and the living room. That whole section through there was existing, and so we were able to use quite a significant amount of the existing footprint of the house. So this was the artist's impression of what the house would look like, and it is pretty true to form. The only thing that has changed on that is pretty much just the colour. We decided that black was not user friendly to the New Zealand sun, so yeah, so we've toned that down quite significantly. So we got into it and we started the journey, and we went, as everyone says, we went blindly where no man has gone before, and we embarked on the Homestar journey. So the renovation started with us stripping back the whole house to the existing framing, the rafters and the concrete floor. The attached lean-to carpet with the master bedroom and makeshift wardrobe in the en-suites, they made way for continuous floor levels and increased ceiling heights. The house was quite hodgepodgey in its original structure. The house was now ready for us to take on the new form, which included the following. We had the new corrugated roof in place of the asbestos Super 6, and we also put in a 21,000 litre water tank in place of a disused leaking in-ground concrete tank. This was for everyday water use and for our consumption. So we actually collect all our rainwater, which is just great, and that goes through a first flush diverter, then through a UV and a filtration system. Where there was no insulation, we packed the house as much as we could, given the allowance that the rafters would let us, and we've squeezed in to the ceiling 5.5 actually in the ceilings and 3.9s in the walls, and this is achieved. This was achieved by the thickness of our walls, which I'll actually show you on the other slide and sort of break that down a little bit for you. Because our original framing was 90 mils, and we increased that to 140 mils. So you can see in this particular slide, this is a cross section. So basically what we've done is we've had our 90 mil framing, then we've added on top of that a 45 mil layer of timber cavity batten, and then which gave us our 135 thickness for our wall insulation. See, the old house had drafty timber joinery, and that gave way for a double glazed, thermally broken aluminium joinery with low E glass and argon gas. And because we'd created such a tight building envelope, we also installed a smart vent synergy unit, and that keeps the house at pretty well at equal pressure. This draws in fresh air from the outside, and it distributes this to all of the bedrooms, all of the 4 bedrooms, the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room, as well as supplying the air. It removes the stale air out of the house, which passes through a heat exchange unit. So we actually are able to warm the air that comes into the house with this heat exchange unit. So we're not filling the house with cool air in the winter time, which is quite critical again. So all of our taps that we put into the house, they were all Wells rated tapware, and that basically keeps the flow of our water down. We've fitted LED lighting right throughout the house and installed energy efficient appliances to keep our energy power bills down. We've also included on the house solar panels as well. We've got 10 solar panels on the house, which are all battery ready. So we've been talking to Harrison's about batteries. Basically the solar unit is actually able to take a further 10 solar panels. So if we want to extend our energy capture, we can do that. We've used eco carpets and low VOC glues and paints, which were supplied to us by one of the sponsors, Resines. All of these go towards a friendlier environment for the family. All of the building waste, what we did with that, we took that to Green Gorilla, to their recycling plant, and basically what they do, which is pretty cool, they are able to produce monthly reports to show how much of waste that comes into their plant is actually recycled. Any metal is removed from the build. We actually scrap that, old appliances and cabinetry, and we were able to sell that on and get some money back from it. With the build, one of the great things about it, which is a good future-proof thing for anybody who is aging, which is all of us. But basically, we've achieved a 5 life mark rating, and what that does is it aids us when we get older, and if we should have an unforeseen injury. You know, if you're wheelchair bound, or if you need assistance in getting up and out of baths or toilets and so forth. So what we did is, with achieving the life mark, is we opened up all of our doorways out to the 860 width, so that it gives way again for wheelchairs, and we increased our hallway width up to 1100 in the width, so that again you've got that good flow through there. And it also makes up for, I believe, every good Kiwi house should have this, a good place for children to roller skate, skateboard, or even play cricket down if in those cold winter months. So the hallway is quite a fun area of activity in our house. We've also kept all of our light switches at a set height, and power points are again away from corners, giving wheelchair access. We've also, as I mentioned earlier, we've installed nogs in our walls for future handrails and grab rails should we ever need those, to assist us as we age. So I mean, as I mentioned earlier, this is our forever home. So we really built this house with the view that we are going to stay here, and we love the area. The girls go to a school locally, so it's just a great place to live. You know, the list itself it just continues with what we've have done, and this has been more than a renovation for Suzanne and I and our girls. We've become passionate about the Homestar process and what we've achieved here with Buildology. I've recently become a host. Well, actually not recently, but in the last couple of years, before we started this build, I became a Homestar practitioner, with the hope to focus on this type of work with my teams in the future. And as the Homestar process evolves, and as building in New Zealand evolves, I just am really passionate to see things, you know, progress. So, and I guess then that asks the question, so why are we doing all this? And I believe that we've built a legacy for our girls and have pushed the renovation boundaries in New Zealand with this project, which has achieved we achieved a 9 design star rating. And I'm really proud to sit here today and say we've achieved New Zealand's first 10 Homestar built renovation, which is a real claim to fame, and it's been an amazing journey, because I've learned so much about building this type of home, and realize the knock-on effects that it has for me as a homeowner in a house like this. So with every home, we all like to make our mark, and so we've done that with this house, not only in the concrete but in the whole build that we've achieved. And I can honestly say that today we're an extended family. We actually have my wife's parents that have lived with us, and my father-in-law is 82 and he has Parkinson's, and I believe it's really extended his quality of life as well. I mentioned on the radio this week that the world parameters for a healthy home is 18 degrees, you know, and 21 if you have elderly or babies in the home. And I know that New Zealand's average on that sits at about 16. So the New Zealand averages are low. Our insulation values on a world value, if you compare us to the EU, we are so low. And I just believe that there are things that we can do that are simple, that don't cost the earth, and you know, that can make the world of difference to everybody's home and their lifestyle. And I'm a person who did a renovation, as I mentioned, back in 2003, and with that renovation, because I was tight on money, I failed to insulate 2 key areas in the house, and they were the 2 bedrooms that we had on the existing part of the house, and that was the room where our new baby slept, and the other room was our master bedroom, and those were the only 2 rooms in the house that got mold and that were damp. And to this day, I took that as a lesson that I wouldn't actually do that again. That if I had the means and it meant that I had to let something else go that wasn't important, I would make sure that the house was fully insulated and well wrapped up, rather than perhaps having the big screen TV. Those things can always wait, but making sure that you've got a good secure envelope in your house is critical to a healthier home. So that's my lovely family. I'm on the right there, of course, and my two girls in the middle, Imogen and Trinity on the bottom, and my lovely wife Suzanne. So that has been our journey, and just like to thank you guys for listening. These here are companies that I went out to because I was really passionate about what I was doing. I wanted to see whether or not the industry was behind this as a change, and this is just an example of the companies that got on board with us and really championed us through it, and in some way, sort of gave back to see us be able to achieve what we've achieved. So that's the end of our short talk, and yeah, if there's any questions, Lena, I'd put it back over to you and see where we go from here.
Yes, thank you very much, Lane. That was a very nice presentation, and really nice to have you with us to round off World Green Building Week with a nice presentation about your own home. I'll see if there's some questions in the room. I imagine there'll be a couple of techie questions, knowing our audience, but we'll wait for a few. I'll wait and have a look and see what's come through, and then we'll ask the questions through. So we have one question here from Gregory Street. Oh no, he's had trouble with his speaker. So hopefully, Greg, you've worked that out. Otherwise, I'll send you the presentation afterwards. Yeah, Annabelle's asking, did you use an airtight vapor check membrane in a thermal envelope?
Right, so yeah, on our, if I understand the question correctly, basically on our thermal envelope, what we did is we obviously used our mammoth insulation, and then on top of that, we used on the exterior of the house, we used a RAB board, which was a Carter's product, and then because we're dealing with an existing home, we've also got around the existing slab of the house, we used a thermal product, which was a Foreman's product, and that basically gave us an R value around our existing part of the house. So effectively, the whole envelope was pretty well, absolutely secure and tight. We didn't do an air test on the house, which is something that I possibly look back and regret not doing, but it wasn't a requirement for Homestar. And look, at the time, again, we were learning a lot on the hop, so we didn't think to do that.
Mm-hmm. And Roland is asking what the wall construction was. 10 millimeter jib, 90 millimeter frame, 45 batten, then paper, 20 cavity. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So we had the existing 90 mil framing. So you had your jib, which is 10 mils, then your 90 mil framing that was existing. Then we put on a 45 mil batten. Now that particular batten obviously pushed it out, so that gave us a cavity of 135. Now that batten actually had to be engineered, and it was actually structurally fitted to the house. So the engineer had to come up with a nailing pattern on that. Then we had our Carter Holt Harvey Eco Ply. So that gave way for our building paper, so we didn't require building paper. So that effectively closed in our building envelope. And then we had our 20 mil castellated cavity battens, because it was a vertical fixed weatherboard. And then our weatherboard went over the top of that. And the weatherboard that we used was from a company called a Bodo, which is actually a thermally treated weatherboard. So it's not an H3.2 product. It's not treated with any chemicals.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thanks for that question, Roland. On to Fatima. She'd like to get an idea on costs. I don't know if you can say anything about the costs of the complete renovation at all.
Yeah, so look, the actual we've done our numbers on this, and the complete cost for us, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because we're in the industry. We do have access to things that the general public wouldn't. So look, overall, the actual cost in itself came in between, and all I can say is between, because if you sort of add margins onto this, which most builders would do, I would say that the build potentially costs us between $650 and $750. if you add a buffer in that. And so for us, it was, that was well worth it, because the options were to bowl the house completely, and even get rid of the slab. And so to do that, the added cost in doing that versus the cost to actually renovate it, I believe actually outweighed the need to completely remove, and also the impact that it would have as well, with taking away more waste that would just ultimately go into landfill.
Cool. I hope that answered your question, Fatima. Alan Carter is also asking, have you got an idea of what your temperature performance has been?
Yeah, now look, I love this one because when you build a house like this, you actually do start to think, oh, has it really worked out the way that all the calculations said that it would work out? And so I have thermometers scattered through the house, and I just love going from room to room. Like, I mean, I'm sitting in my office right now, and it's 19.6 degrees right now. I know that if I walked into the lounge area where it's actually a bit warmer, we'd probably be in the early 20s. So, through the whole house, it probably sits, I think, at an ambient temperature on most days at about 20 degrees without actually having to do any heating whatsoever, which is pretty cool. And it's as I said before, New Zealand, the average temperature in a New Zealand house is around about 16 degrees. So, I mean, we all know when we jump into a swimming pool what the difference 1 degree can make, to sort of staying in longer or getting out. And it's no different in the home. So, on average, I would say our house sits at about 20 degrees without any heating whatsoever.
Nice and cozy. Alan's also asking if you used a few tape joints of EcoPly.
Yeah, so that's part of the EcoPly system. So look, the EcoPly was actually a late addition to the build. Again, it was as we got on and companies started hearing about what we were doing, we were sort of looking at we were sort of offered other options to sort of things like building paper and stuff like that. And so anyway, the EcoPly was put in front of us as an option. And the good thing about the EcoPly is that effectively you just nail all that off completely as a bracing sheet. So that removes all of your internal bracing with your jib. And yeah, also it has a tape system. So it's again, I just feel that the EcoPly was a great bulletproof option, because it's just a solid piece of ply that completely seals the whole envelope of the building. Building paper is great, don't get me wrong, but building paper has the potential to get breaches in, and any breach when you're building a house like this is quite critical, and you need to make sure that you get those sealed up. And I mean, you're watching so many other trades all the time, and someone might cut a piece here or there, and that's a breach, so it's really important to make sure those are seen to as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alan. And last question from Richard. He's asking if you have any regrets at all, or wish you'd done anything else, or done anything better.
Yeah, look, to be really honest, I come home every day, and I just walk in the door, and I just love our home. I mean, the big thing is could we have gone, could we have built the house bigger, or could we have done things a little bit differently with the layout? Well, I think everybody at some point or time thinks, oh, maybe I should have made that a lounge area or something like that. But those are just sort of like cosmetic things. As far as it goes with the build, absolutely not. The way we've built the house, the way we've followed the Homestar process, I can't fault the way the house has been designed. It's been built as far as it goes with materials and the Homestar process. So yeah, we love it for many reasons. The house has great indoor-outdoor flow. It's north facing. The rooms are just cozy. Overall, it's an amazing house to live in. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's a nice way to finish the presentation, and also knowing that it's your forever home. So I hope you have many happy years there, and keep enjoying your house. Thank you very much, Thane, for joining us today.
Pleasure.
I'll finish off the webinar just by mentioning that the Super Home Tour is happening, and people can actually come and see your house and from the inside and outside. Is that right? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we're on the Sunday tour, and it's from 11 till 4, And yeah, the home will be open, and I'll have Buildology here with me as well, going through answering any questions if people have design questions and so forth.
Yeah, so anyone in Auckland this weekend, jump onto the Super Home website, and I think you can still register for the tour on Sunday. So don't miss out on that. Great, thank you very much, Zane. Thank you very much for everyone attending today's last webinar of the week of World Green Building Week. It's been a great week, and it was great to see so many of you. I hope you have a really nice rest of the day, and I'll speak to you all very soon. Thank you, Zane, again. I'll speak to you soon.
Great, thanks, Lena. Bye.
Bye.